Since the dawn of disciplined minds, the ancients taught that a warrior is not defined by the battles he fights, but by the fire he forges within. Like steel hammered under relentless flame, the human spirit becomes unbreakable only when tested, shaped, and purified by choice, not chance. In the path of Hagene no Ishi, the iron will, every heartbeat is a reminder that mastery begins within the silent chambers of the self. Today you stand at the edge of that forge. This is not just a speech, it is an invitation to carve your name among those who chose discipline over impulse, clarity over chaos, and purpose over comfort. If you are ready to craft a mind steady as a drawn blade, comment, "I'm ready." Subscribe to join this growing brotherhood of modern warriors, and thank you for being part of a community that chooses to rise rather than be ruled by emotion. The samurai method to perfect self-control is not merely a philosophy, it is a lifelong vow, a sharpening of spirit that transforms hesitation into power and fear into direction. The discipline of the silent mind begins with understanding that true control is not achieved through force, but through awareness sharpened to the precision of a blade drawn in moonlight. A silent mind is not an empty mind. It is a disciplined one, capable of observing thoughts without being ruled by them. In the way of the samurai, silence was not absence, it was strength. It was the calm before movement, the breath before a decisive strike, the stillness that allowed perception to pierce through illusion. To discipline the mind is to train it to stop reacting to every disturbance, every internal tremor, every spark of doubt that once dictated your choices. Instead of being dragged by impulses, you stand above them, seeing them for what they are, fleeting storms that cannot sway a rooted spirit. This silence is forged through deliberate intention, intentional pauses, and the refusal to let noise define your inner world. When you master this, you no longer chase peace. It follows you. In learning the discipline of the silent mind, you begin to recognize how much of your life has been directed by patterns you never questioned. Most people are slaves to the chaos within their own skull, scattered thoughts, wandering fears, old memories that resurface without invitation, and emotional reactions that erupt before understanding. But a samurai understood that the battlefield is first the mind, and until you conquer that terrain, every external victory is an illusion. Silence gives you the power to observe yourself as if from a distance, noticing what once controlled you. You start to feel the difference between an instinctive reaction and a conscious choice. You start to witness how moments of stillness sharpen your perception, allowing you to move through the world with a kind of inner authority that others can feel but not describe. This discipline is not learned overnight. It is cultivated through stillness, repetition, and the willingness to confront your own inner noise. Over time, the discipline of the silent mind becomes a force that reshapes the way you walk, breathe, and respond to life. The more you train your mind to return to calm, the more resilient you become in the face of adversity. Where others panic, you analyze. Where others collapse under pressure, you expand. Where others let anger or fear dictate their next action, you remain centered, choosing the path that aligns with your principles rather than your emotion. This is the essence of samurai composure, the ability to meet life fully, without being swallowed by it. Through silence, you gain a deeper understanding of yourself, your weaknesses, your triggers, your strengths, and the gaps in your character that require refinement. It is in this self-awareness that true transformation begins. You no longer act blindly, you act with intention sharpened by clarity. Eventually, the silent mind becomes not just a practice but a refuge, a place you can return to no matter how loud the world becomes. This discipline allows you to listen to your intuition with greater accuracy, because the noise that once drowned it out no longer has power. You become less reactive to insults, setbacks, or unexpected challenges, because you no longer see them as threats, but as moments to demonstrate your control. The silent mind does not break under pressure, it expands. It does not fear uncertainty, it studies it. It does not cling to outcomes, it focuses on mastery in the present moment. And as this discipline grows, you begin to realize that silence is not weakness. It is the supreme expression of strength. For the warrior who commands his own mind fears nothing, not even the storms he carries within. Mastery over impulse begins with recognizing that most of life's suffering comes not from external forces, but from the untrained reactions we allow to control us. Impulse is the raw, unfiltered energy of the mind, powerful, chaotic, and often misdirected. A samurai understood that reacting without thought was the fastest path to defeat, not only on the battlefield but in every aspect of existence. To master impulse is to slow the world down just enough to reclaim authority over your next action. It is the ability to feel the surge of anger, fear, desire, or frustration rise within you and still remain unmoved, choosing the response that serves your purpose rather than your emotion. This mastery begins with awareness. The ability to detect the first spark of an impulse before it becomes a flame. Once you learn to catch that first spark, you realize how much control you truly have. You begin to see that impulse mastery is not suppression, it is transformation. It is taking the wild force within you and redirecting it, shaping it into precision and strength. As you go deeper into mastery over impulse, you start to understand that impulses are not enemies, they are signals. They reveal your fears, your desires, your weaknesses, and the patterns buried inside your behavior. Most people feel an impulse and immediately obey it, surrendering their power without even noticing. But a warrior learns to pause for even one breath, because in that breath lies the power to change the outcome of a moment, a day, and eventually, a life. This pause becomes your shield. It separates instinct from intention, reaction from choice. Instead of lashing out in anger, you analyze. Instead of quitting from frustration, you realign. Instead of chasing distractions, you return to purpose. Slowly, impulse loses the power to control your path. You begin to feel the shift. Your decisions are no longer emotional eruptions, but deliberate movements aligned with who you want to become. This awareness becomes your inner guard, standing watch over every thought that tries to control you. With continuous practice, mastering impulses reshapes your identity. You begin to trust yourself more because you are no longer unpredictable or easily swayed by momentary feelings. Your actions become consistent, grounded, and aligned with your long-term vision. This is where true discipline emerges, not from force, but from clarity. You start to realize that every impulse mastered is a step toward the warrior you are forging. Moments that once trigger you begin to lose their grip. Stress no longer overwhelms you, it challenges you. Temptation no longer distracts you, it tests you. Emotional triggers no longer control you, they teach you. This state of control becomes a noticeable presence in your life. Others sense your steadiness, your restraint, your ability to remain unaffected by the chaos that consumes the average person. Mastery gives you this quiet dominance, the power to shape your world instead of being shaped by it. You become a person whose actions are intentional and unshakable. Eventually, mastery over impulse becomes one of the strongest pillars of your personal power. You reach a point where the mind no longer dictates your path with random urges. Instead, your purpose guides every choice you make. You begin to live with a precision that intimidates distraction itself. Impulses still arise because they are part of human nature, but you meet them with wisdom rather than obedience. You observe them, redirect them, or dismiss them entirely depending on what serves your mission. This level of control creates a deep sense of inner stability, the kind that cannot be shaken by criticism, setbacks, temptation, or emotional storms. You no longer break under pressure, you decide how to move through it. This mastery becomes a kind of internal armor, forged through repetition, awareness, and the constant refusal to let a fleeting emotion define your actions. And in this mastery, you discover one of the greatest truths of the samurai path, that the warrior who commands his impulses commands his destiny. Precision in action begins with the understanding that every movement, every word, and every decision carries weight. A samurai never acted by accident. Intention guided every step like an invisible thread pulling him toward purpose. Precision is not merely doing something correctly, it is doing it consciously. It is the discipline of eliminating hesitation, waste, and randomness from your actions, so that everything you do becomes aligned with your deeper mission. When you move with precision, you stop stumbling through life reacting to whatever appears. Instead, you become deliberate, focused, and sharp. Every action becomes a strike of meaning, as if each moment were a brushstroke on the canvas of your destiny. Precision demands clarity, and clarity demands discipline. You cannot act with purpose if your mind is scattered. You cannot take accurate aim if your vision is blurred by doubt or distraction. So the path to precision begins by stripping away the unnecessary movements, unnecessary thoughts, unnecessary impulses, until only what matters remains. In this way, you cultivate the mindset of a warrior whose actions always reflect intention, not emotion. As you go deeper into precision in action, you begin to understand how many of your choices in the past were made in a fog of confusion, habit, or emotional reaction. You may have acted quickly, but without accuracy, or you may have moved constantly, but without direction. Precision cuts through this fog with the sharpness of a blade. It requires you to slow down just enough to see clearly, and then move with decisive speed. The samurai trained endlessly not to become faster first, but to become accurate. Speed without precision is chaos. Precision without awareness is luck. But precision backed by focused awareness becomes mastery. Each action becomes efficient and intentional. Whether it is a simple task or a complex challenge, you begin to recognize that precision is not only physical, it is mental and emotional as well. To be precise is to speak only when needed, to commit only when ready, and to choose paths that align with your highest values. Over time, this level of precision becomes a defining trait that separates you from the majority who act without direction. With practice, precision in action reshapes the way you approach every goal. Instead of overwhelming yourself with large tasks, you break them down with the clarity of someone who knows exactly where to strike. Instead of trying to do everything, you focus on the few actions that move you forward with maximum impact. This is the heart of precision, identifying what truly matters and giving it your full attention. When your actions become precise, you eliminate the exhaustion caused by scattered effort. You begin to experience a sense of control. Not because life becomes easier, but because you move with intention instead of chaos. Precision turns time into an ally. You stop wasting hours on distractions and start investing minutes into progress. The warrior who acts with precision sees every day as a series of opportunities to execute the right moves, rather than a battlefield of random reactions. This way of living builds momentum, confidence, and mastery, as each precise action compounds into meaningful transformation. Eventually, precision in action becomes part of your identity. It influences the way you communicate, train, work, and pursue your goals. You speak with clarity, move with purpose, and act with confidence. You no longer drift through life hoping for results. You create them through deliberate execution. People begin to notice your intentional presence, the way you handle challenges without panic, and the way your decisions seem to cut through confusion with the sharpness of a blade. This is not coincidence. It is the result of conscious training. Precision becomes your compass, guiding you through noise, fear, and uncertainty. And with each precise action, you reinforce the discipline and focus required to maintain this path. You become a person who does not flinch under pressure because you trust your own accuracy. You become someone who does not waste effort because every movement serves a purpose. In this state, your life transforms from scattered attempts into a series of deliberate victories, reminding you that mastery is not about doing more. It is about doing with intention, clarity, and unwavering precision. Unshakable emotional balance begins with understanding that emotions are waves, powerful, unpredictable, and sometimes overwhelming. But a warrior is the unmoving shore that does not collapse beneath them. A samurai never sought to eliminate emotion. Instead, he sought to command it. Emotional balance is the art of remaining centered when everything around you pulls, triggers, or provokes you. It is the discipline of standing firm in moments where others shatter. To cultivate this balance, you must first acknowledge the truth. Emotions are natural, but losing control to them is a choice. When anger rises, when fear whispers, when doubt shakes your confidence, these sensations are simply signals, nothing more. The warrior observes them without becoming them. This separation between feeling and identity is the beginning of emotional mastery. In this stillness, you regain authority over your internal world, refusing to let temporary emotions dictate permanent decisions. With every controlled breath, you build the inner stability that becomes your anchor in life's fiercest storms. As you go deeper into unshakable emotional balance, you begin to understand that most emotional instability comes from resistance rather than acceptance. People panic, not because the emotion is too strong, but because they fear it. They try to suppress it, hide it, or fight it, and in doing so, they feed it. A samurai learned to let emotions move through him like wind through bamboo, felt, acknowledged, but never allowed to break him. You begin to study your emotions with curiosity instead of judgment, noticing the triggers that once controlled you. This awareness creates space between you and your reactions. Instead of exploding in anger, you examine it. Instead of drowning in sadness, you sit with it. Instead of running from fear, you question it. This emotional space is power. It allows you to choose your response with clarity rather than instinct. Slowly, your emotional battlefield becomes calmer, more predictable, and easier to navigate. You realize that balance does not mean neutrality, it means stability. It means feeling deeply while still acting wisely. With consistent practice, emotional balance becomes a trait that transforms every area of your life. People around you sense your steadiness. The way you remain composed even under pressure, the way you speak with calm authority even in chaos, the way you adapt rather than react. This presence is not accidental, it is forged through self-control. Challenges that once overwhelmed you now feel manageable because you no longer fuel them with panic or frustration. Conflicts no longer escalate because you respond instead of react. Stress no longer breaks you because you approach it with a centered mind. Emotional balance becomes a shield against manipulation, negativity, and the emotional chaos of others. You no longer absorb every emotion thrown at you. You filter them, evaluate them, and choose what enters your inner world. This creates a rare strength, an inner calm that cannot be shaken by opinions, setbacks, or sudden changes. You become a person whose presence stabilizes the environment around you, a quiet force that others instinctively respect. Eventually, unshakable emotional balance becomes one of the greatest strengths in your character. You reach a point where emotions no longer control your path, they inform it. You feel everything with depth, but react to nothing without intention. You begin to live with a calm confidence that others strive their whole lives to achieve. Your emotional world becomes like a still pond, reflective, undisturbed, and clear. Even when life throws storms your way, you stand firm because you trust your ability to return to balance. This trust becomes liberation. You are no longer ruled by anger, fear, jealousy, or insecurity. You meet each emotion with wisdom, allowing it to guide but never overpower you. In this mastery, you discover a profound truth of the samurai path. Emotional balance is not the absence of emotion, it is the dominance of spirit over turbulence. And once you attain it, you become unshakable in a world built on instability. The warrior's daily rituals for control begin with the understanding that mastery is never a single act. It is a lifestyle lived moment by moment. A samurai did not wait for battle to practice discipline. His entire day was a ceremony of self-sharpening. Rituals anchor the mind, train the spirit, and carve discipline into the bones. Each ritual is a deliberate act of reclaiming control from chaos. Whether it is rising before sunrise, steadying the breath, or setting the intention for the day, these practices remind you that your identity is shaped not by what you occasionally do, but by what you consistently commit to. Daily rituals turn discipline into instinct. They prevent the mind from drifting into weakness and keep the spirit aligned with purpose. When you adopt these rituals, you begin to live with clarity rather than confusion, with direction rather than disorder. This constancy becomes your foundation, the quiet force that supports every decision, action, and response. Through ritual, you create the internal structure that makes control not an effort, but a way of being. As you go deeper into the warrior's daily rituals for control, you begin to see how routine becomes the forge of transformation. Most people allow their mornings and evenings to be dictated by impulse, distraction, or emotion, but a warrior chooses intentionality, simple practices, structured breathing, mental stillness, writing intentions, disciplined training, become powerful tools that realign your mind every day. These rituals are not performed for motivation. They are performed to build identity. They remind you who you are becoming, reinforcing discipline at moments when the world tries to break it. Even small rituals compound into extraordinary strength when repeated with consistency. They teach you to act even when you do not feel like it, giving you control over the body's reluctance and the mind's excuses. Over time, these rituals become the invisible armor you wear, strengthening you long before you encounter challenge. The warrior who controls his daily habits controls his destiny. With practice, the warrior's daily rituals for control evolve into anchors that steady you through chaos. When challenges arise, when stress mounts, when emotions flare, your rituals pull you back to center. They remind you of your discipline, your mission, and your power. You begin to realize that control is not found in dramatic moments. It is earned quietly, in the repetition of disciplined acts. Training the body becomes training the mind. Straightening your environment becomes straightening your thoughts. Reviewing your day becomes sharpening your awareness. Each ritual builds self-trust, because every completed practice is a promise kept to yourself. And with self-trust comes strength. Strength to resist temptation, strength to maintain clarity, strength to stay composed in moments that would break others. Through these rituals, you create a rhythm of discipline that shapes your entire life. You become someone who does not waver, because your foundation is built through daily devotion, not temporary effort. Eventually, the warrior's daily rituals for control become more than practices. They become your identity. You no longer force them, you embody them. They guide you like a compass, ensuring you never drift too far from your path. Even on difficult days, your rituals give you direction and stability, reminding you that control is a skill, not a mood. This consistency creates a powerful shift in your character. You become reliable, disciplined, and internally fortified. Others will see your steadiness, but only you will know that it was built in the quiet hours. Day after day, breath after breath. Through these rituals you rise above chaos and emotion, forging a life defined by intention rather than reaction. And in mastering these daily practices you discover one of the deepest truths of the samurai path. That greatness is not created in extraordinary moments, but in the silent repetition of disciplined choices made every single day. In the end, the path of the samurai method to perfect self-control is not a journey of perfection, but of persistence, of choosing again and again to rise above chaos and command the world within. Remember that every moment of silence you cultivate, every impulse you master, every precise action you take, every emotion you steady, and every ritual you honor, forges the warrior you are becoming. These teachings are not ancient echoes, they are living tools meant to guide you through the battles of modern life with clarity and strength. You now carry the wisdom of discipline, intention, and inner balance, sharpened like a blade that refuses to dull. As you walk forward, let your spirit remain anchored in purpose, your actions aligned with truth, and your heart unwavering in its commitment to growth. Comment: I will rise. If you choose to continue this path and subscribe to join this community of modern warriors dedicated to mastering themselves, thank you for standing here, not as a passive listener, but as a disciplined soul ready to forge greatness from within. The journey continues, and your next step defines your destiny.